And good evening, everybody. Welcome to X's and O's Rivalry Edition. It is Tuesday, February 23rd, the fourth episode of X's and O's. Hope everyone's doing well. I'm Michael Keeley. As always, Riley Armstrong, head coach and assistant general manager of the Maine Mariners. And our special guest here is the head coach and general manager of the rival Worcester Railers. It's David Cunniff. David, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for being with us, and we want to extend a special welcome to all the Worcester Railers fans out there, and perhaps the old-time Worcester Sharks fans as well, which we will get into. Of course, Riley Armstrong, a former Worcester Shark. We'll talk a lot about that and his time with David as his coach in Worcester and Cleveland beforehand. We'll get into, of course, our tale of the tape, our video clip breakdowns. We'll talk about this rivalry between the Mariners and the Railers, which, of course, stemmed from the Worcester Sharks and the Portland Pirates. We'll have trivia. We'll do some NHL talk, and we'll have a lot of fun here on X's and O's. A reminder before we get started, if everyone out there could share the stream with your friends and help us widen our audience, we will pick one winner or one prize winner of everybody that shares the stream on Facebook. And remember, we are interactive on the show, so drop your comments down below, and we will pull those up on screen as we move along tonight. But let's start with a little bit of background on our special guest, David Cunniff. And Cunny, you have been coaching in the pros for a long time, almost 20 years, a large portion of that in the AHL. But you were put in an interesting position taking over the Railers last November, about a month and a half into the season. Tell us about that opportunity, how it came to be, and the challenges that came along with that.
Yeah, it was so unique, and I was so excited to be with the Rangers and to be in Hartford. When I got a phone call, it was interesting. I showed up for practice, and Chris Knobloch, the head coach in Hartford, called me in his office, and he's like, "Hey, you looking for a job?" And I'm like, "No." Like, what are you talking? I had just signed. I didn't really know Knobber. I didn't know, really anyone with the organization. Chris Drury was the GM. I was excited to work with Chris. Jeff Gorton was the GM with the Rangers. Excited to work with him, and Quinny, obviously, and Riley in Maine. So pumped up to be with that group that I thought I was in a really good place. John Davidson had just came in and everything he was talking about as the president was talking about building from within and building in Hartford and trying to build up the Rangers by developing in the American League. And I figured, that's right up my alley. So I thought I was in a really good position. I knew I was in a great position. But after Knobber had told me, he's like, geez, someone had called Chris Drury and asked if they'd be, they were talking about making a coaching change and would like to talk to you about the head coaching job. And I told them right there and then, I was like, look, I'm really happy here. I'm not looking to go anywhere. I'm in a great spot, but it's close to home. Like, being in Hartford, it's only an hour and a half up to Boston, if that, sometimes not even that far. So I thought I was in a great place, but having an opportunity, like you said, I've been coaching 20 years and haven't had the fortune to be, have the opportunity to be a head coach very often. So I jumped, kind of had to jump at the chance. I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't jump at the chance. I was a little bit reluctant, but after, we had some great people that were left over from the Worcester Shark days, and Mike Myers and Eric Lindquist, some of the people that work in the front office. So I was really familiar with those guys. I trusted them. But then the thing that sold me was talking to our ownership group, talking to Cliff Rucker. After I spoke to him, it was something I went back to my wife about and said, geez, this is something I might really do, because he was committed to winning. Like, that was the biggest thing. He wanted things done right. I felt like I came from organizations that had done things right, being, again, with the Rangers, being, in San Jose, Minnesota, those teams. I've been around a lot of great people and just felt like, I could take that leadership role as the GM also to build my own team and not really have to rely on, the scouts and in front, an NHL front office to build that team for me. So I wanted an opportunity to lead and to win. I think I could hopefully build a team in Worcester that we can compete for a championship, and that's my goal.
And so the quintessential question we've been asking everybody, and we have been for months now, how have you been keeping yourself busy the last 11 months between the cancellation of the 2019-20 season and obviously without the North Division playing this season.
It's funny, but I've been pretty busy. Obviously as the head coach GM, it never ends, right? Like we all know that you're watching college games, you're watching major junior, you're talking to college coaches, you're talking to agents. So you're always looking to build for next year. But that being said, I have a company that I work, that I created with my wife, Cunniff hockey, that we do in the summertime. We do camps. I skate with some pro guys in college, high school, down to youth hockey. And I'll tell you, I get pretty consumed during the season by my coach in the American League and in the East Coast League now. I get sidetracked by that, and it's almost like 1 foot in, 1 foot out doing the kind of hockey. So I've been really able to take this opportunity to kind of plan a little bit earlier than I normally do as far as renting ice and talking to rinks and I'm on the ice 6 days a week right now, with like some college and pro guys that aren't skating, some prep school kids that are home. So that's been a lot of fun to, at least it keeps me, I get my thrill is helping guys fulfill their dreams and get guys better. So being on the ice every day and being able to do that, it's been a little bit, it's been rewarding, but also it's kept me sane because otherwise I lose my mind.
Well, when it comes to building the team for next year, the ECHL put out some very good news for you guys this week coming out of their midseason meetings, that any players that had signed with the team that had ended up opting out of the season, their rights will be retained by that original team. So Riley, as we bring you in for the first time tonight, I'm sure you are thrilled about the opportunity to keep the core together and bring some familiar faces back to Maine.
Yeah, something that Cunny's going to probably do more this summer in building his own team is what we did 2 years ago and bringing our guys in. And now those guys have been the core of the Maine Mariners now. Guys, Dylan Fox, Alex Kyle, Michael McNicholas, Scott Savage, a lot of those types of guys, Connor Bleakley, that, they're going to be able to come back and play here. I think that's the most exciting part, like Cunny touched on, was being able to kind of bring the players in that you think that you like or that you can work with. So I'm excited to have those guys back up here in Maine. I think the division is going to be really strong next year. So I'm just looking forward to being able to work with those guys again. Hopefully get them some back on the ice, number one, but also up to the American Hockey League as well.
And David, from that angle, the news for you, is it a little bit different because you inherited a team that you didn't necessarily build when you took over in November, and obviously you had a chance to get to know the guys through the months, the final 4 or 5 months of the season. But I'm sure part of you is still trying to kind of build your own team the way you want it to. So I'm sure you love the chance to bring those players back, but how is it a little bit different for you as you try to build your team in your first full season?
Yeah, in Worcester last year, just they just didn't. It seemed like they didn't have a lot of luck with Jamie being the head coach and GM before me. He had, I think, on opening night they all talked about what a great team they thought they had on paper, and they got off the first 2 games with some wins, and they were excited about what they had. But then you had a career-ending injury, you had a retirement, so it started the ball rolling in the wrong direction, and sometimes it's just tough to get out of that. When I took over, we had Barry Almeida that was going to be out for 3 weeks, and he was the captain of the team, one of the leaders. So, I mean, we were pretty thin, and it was a matter of trying to get to know the guys and see who they are and what they could do. So I spent some time with that. And then I started trying to make some changes to try to get some guys in that I think just play a little bit more of the style I want to play, which is a team game. It's not as much individual. We have some great individual players, but we're just not going to win. I think with a lot of guys like that, they could get a point a game, but maybe give up 2. So, I was looking for guys that could kind of be just a small part of something big. And we started to make some changes with that. I thought we, started making some progress, but then all of a sudden Bridgeport loses 3 defensemen. They called up 3 right shot defensemen, and it just didn't go our way. But there's some of the guys that we had our protected list that we were able to protect some of the guys. We weren't let some guys go. We signed some guys, re-signed some guys. So as the summer was building on, we were able to sign some of the guys that I thought would be able to come in and help us win. So it'll be exciting to be able to get those guys. Some of them are rookies. Some of them play them in the league on other teams right now that I'm hoping to get back. And it'll be interesting in training camp. Like with the contracts in this league, and you try to tell guys, like, you might have a contract, but you might not come to training camp. You might not have a job when training camp's over. Like, if there's other guys that you're inviting to training camp that don't have a contract, that if show well, then they're gonna end up earning the spot. And I always say it, and when I coached, and no matter what it is, like, I don't dictate the ice time, the players do. I don't dictate who I'm going to keep on the team. A lot of it is them. So, our training camp is going to be a very competitive training camp. And there's going to be jobs up for grabs and guys that come in with a contract, without a contract. I'm sure it'll be a mixed bag of who we keep.
So before we get into David and Riley's previous player-coach relationship, David, you mentioned all the spots you've been around the AHL, including stops in Cleveland, Worcester, Albany, Iowa, and Hartford before landing in Worcester. Now, all those years as an assistant or an associate, did you have any opportunities to become a head coach along the way? I know you were an interim in Iowa for a time there, but all those years as an assistant associate, and then why did you decide now was the time to become a head coach?
Well, I went to San Jose, and that was my first gig. I got a job to be an assistant coach in Cleveland, and was excited about that. My goal was to, someone obviously recommends you, right, for that job, and then it's my job to prove that it was the right hire. So when I went there, I looked at it was my job was to help, the gentleman that recommended me win a Stanley Cup. So I stayed there probably longer than I should have, as far as like for my coaching career. But that being said, I can't really say that because, number one, I felt like we were getting better. We as a staff in the hockey department, we were constantly challenging ourselves. We would get in the room and throw questions at each other just to brainstorm and to see, what other people are seeing around the league and in their parts of the world. So I felt like I was getting better. So I was in no real rush to leave. Roy was there for, he's been there 23 years or something like that. He wasn't really going anywhere. He wasn't looking for jobs. And you start working with guys. And like I said, my big thing is helping guys fulfill their dreams and get to the NHL. So a guy comes in, you work with him for a year or two, and he's not quite there yet. You want to go back and finish the job. So that was kind of my stint in San Jose. And then, but when I went to Iowa, I thought it was the right situation. John Torchetti took over Minnesota halfway through my first year in Iowa. I took over the Iowa team. I thought we did a good job for what we had. We were very competitive. The guys played hard. Unfortunately, we probably didn't win as many games as they had liked, but we had a young team, and we had set the record. When I took over in Iowa, they had set the record, or we had set the record. My first year, they had been the worst team in the league for 3 years in a row, I think, which was John Torchetti and I went in there. We kind of changed things, and we changed the culture and switched things. That's why taking the job in Worcester, I feel like I've been through it before. When I went to Iowa, we were not a very good hockey team. The culture wasn't very good. You're talking about guys not going out before practice and working and doing different things. So I just feel like I wish I had gotten a chance in Iowa. We had a lot of young guys coming in, like Alex Tuck and Luke Cunniff, Jordan Greenway, like guys that I think we could have that I could have worked with and helped get to the NHL. And obviously they did really well, but it just didn't work out. So I had to just keep moving on. I couldn't get frustrated with that. I was always happy to be working. I love coaching, and I love showing up at the rink every day. And I'm a little bit short-sighted as far as as far as that, I like coaching and I'm happy to coach, and I don't really have an ego. I don't care who gets the credit or what. I like to build a team and have again, be a small piece of something special. But when the opportunity came to take over Worcester, I had to jump at it because, number one, I was getting labeled as an assistant coach, associate head coach. I needed to have my own team and prove to people that I could win as a head coach. And I'm overripe maybe, but at least I feel very comfortable in knowing that I can do a good job. And again, I've been around a lot of great people. I've been able to steal a lot of good information. So hopefully I could share that with our group, and we can continue to grow.
So from 2004 to 2009, Riley, first in Cleveland and then in Worcester, the first 5 years of your pro career, David was your assistant coach. What do you remember about him as a coach and your player-coach relationship?
Yeah, I remember first time meeting Connie. It was the NHL. It was with San Jose at the rookie tournament in Anaheim, and I just came down there from junior hockey. First time ever really going into it. We had we always had a young team at those tournaments, I felt, and they had guys from all over the place. It was kind of my first time really experiencing something like that. I was fortunate enough to get an NHL contract out of that, and then I went to Cleveland and had Cunniff there as well. And I think the times have changed quite a bit since the Cleveland days, when in our practice rink, weight room was so-so a little bit. But then at the same time, we played out of the same rink as the Cleveland Cavaliers. But the one thing that I loved Cunniff for was the amount of time that he would always put in before practice and after practice with all the players. It didn't matter if you're a forward or a D. He was always on the ice looking to work with you, pick your game apart, work on those areas that you could get better. And I think when you look at Cunniff's track record, for guys that have played Cleveland, Worcester, with the Wild, the guys that he's moved on in those areas. There's some guys that are played in the NHL that I think a lot of people never thought they could. And, that's that countless hours of going on the ice before practice, after practice, cutting video, being able to sit down with the guys. But that's probably what I absolutely remember the most. And I bet you Cunniff remembers me. Probably caused him a couple of headaches in those 5 years too. So hopefully those to the side.
I was just gonna flip the question, Connie. What do you remember about coaching Riles?
It's interesting. A lot of people don't understand. Riley came in as a young kid. It's funny because I was there from the beginning. I don't know if it was what year was it that you came in? 2004. So I had been coaching maybe 2 or 3 years at that point, but still considered myself kind of a young guy and wanted to learn. So at the development, at that rookie tournament, what they would do is a guy like you, a free agent, even the draft picks, everybody, Finker and those guys, they would go through and pull out your shifts. And then all the scouts would get together and watch the shifts. After watching 4 or 5 games that day, then now you're talking all the scouts getting in a room. I remember, with the coaches, some of the coaches were going to Disney because we're in Anaheim, and they're going like, "Hey, you want to go to Disney?" And I'm like, "No, you know what? I'm going to go watch video." And just for whatever reason, I wanted to get better. So I knew I could pick some things up in the scout meeting. So one of the guys we watched that day was Riley, and Riley was a 20-year-old kid coming in. That just earned he worked for everything. He didn't have a high profile. He was young to be earning an NHL contract at that point. Because it's a tough decision for an NHL team. They can't give Riley an American League deal at that point. They had to sign him for a 3-year NHL deal. It kind of shows what he did in that tournament, as far as, his competitiveness, his being strong on the puck, being involved in plays. He did all the little things. And I remember to a T, we were in a meeting. We just watched his shifts. No one really said anything. And the head of pro scouting, or the head of scouting at the time, Timmy Burke, was asking the group. He looks around, he's like, "What do you guys think?" And all the scouts are sitting there. They wouldn't say a word. I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, let's hear something." So then he asked him again, like, all right, guys, what do you think? What do you think of this player? We got to make a decision. 3-year deal, 20 years old. We got to figure it out. So Berkey looks at me. He's like, Cunniff, what do you think? And I'm like, so he threw it on me. All the scouts are sitting in the room. I'm like, you guys are on your paycheck. I'm coaching the team tomorrow. Like, come on. But what I saw was a guy that, again, like I just said, he was involved in plays. He was everywhere he needed to be on the ice. He was like without the puck. Young guys like that, they're all right with the puck at times, but they don't know how to play without the puck. And Pitcher was a guy that he did the thing. He played the game the right way. He was I talk about physical hockey players, and I consider Riley a physical hockey player. And physical hockey players to me get hit 80% of the time, and they hit 20% of the time. Riley's a guy that would go first. He's not afraid to go first. Other guys, they see who they're going in the corner with. They let the guy win the race, and they go and hit the guy. But now the guy has the puck. Riley was a guy that was fearless, that would get over a puck, take a rub to get puck possession to try to keep the play alive. You talk about headaches. I don't remember a lot of headaches. I had a lot of fun coaching. You're a guy that I thought first couple of years in Cleveland, we had a quiet group. Our locker room was like before games, Roy and I would be looking at each other outside the room like you couldn't hear a peep. And it was like, come on, boys, like get fired up. We need some noise in there. And Riley might have been over the top, but he definitely brought some chirps and noises into the group. Between him and Jay Demers.
Well, let's bring up one possible headache that he might have caused you in the 2009 Atlantic Division Finals, Game 6, I believe. Riley with the big hit in the corner and causes a couple of penalties, right, Riles? I think 2 or 3 penalties on the play there. But obviously, playoff series, tensions running high. We actually talked about this series with Kirk McDonald on the very first episode. Riles, what do you remember about this night and everything about the hit and what happened after?
Yeah, I remember going in. So, like, during my 5 years there, we were always that borderline playoff team. And this was, like, the best team that I felt we had in those years. Logan Couture was coming up. Pavelski started with us. Derek Jocelyn, Stavitz. We had some, like, really good players. And we were doing really well. We beat Hartford in 6 games in the first round, and then we came up against Providence, and they were loaded with Marchand. Rask was in net, and I think the series was 3-2 in this game. Providence had us down, and then they were winning 4-0, I think, at the time. And it was watching the game. It was a bad play on my part where we were at, but I wanted to try, and I remember I wanted to try and turn the tide for us because I still felt, we're halfway through the game. I felt that there was time that I could hopefully spark something. Wasn't trying to hurt the guy that I hit at all. But I don't know. I was trying to spark, trying to get the guys going a little bit. Stabby, you stopped fighting there. He was my bodyguard for 4 years, I think. So we had a really good friendship. We still chat to this day, but I kind of let my emotions boil over a little bit. As you can see,
Let's see that. How many minutes in total?
30 minutes total.
30 minutes.
That's it.
Yeah. Took a spearing penalty coming off out of the penalty box as well. So definitely let the team down. Then that was my last game in Worcester. Felt I kind of left on a bad note for what we had going there. But, I was invested into the team. I was invested into the city of Worcester as well. I wanted to win. So, yeah, I kind of let my emotions probably get the best of me there.
Look at some of the names on this list here, too. Brad Marchand scoring the first goal for Providence. You got Tuukka Rask in goal. Jamie McGinn there on Worcester. Logan Couture. Thomas Greiss in net. I mean, Cunny, Riley and I have talked about it before. And we talked about it with Kirk, who played for Providence as well. The Atlantic Division back in the day, so many teams packed so close together, so many natural rivalries. And obviously with the players that were coming up at that time, a lot of talent there.
Oh, yeah, a ton. It was a lot of fun. I mean, that was a lot of, like, not just on our team. I mean, we had a lot of guys that played that ended up moving on and playing in the NHL. But every night you're playing against guys that we're going to be playing. NHL superstars, not just NHL guys that made it, guys that actually NHL all-stars. So a lot of fun to coach, coach in the league, and especially around here, you're able to sleep in your own bed at night too. Coming from Cleveland, where our closest trip was 5 hours away, everything was a night trip. So it was nice to be able to go play an away game, and actually you play away games, but you pregame skating in your own rink. So that's always nice too.
And Riley, you began to allude to it there, and obviously, despite maybe ending your Worcester career on a somewhat of a sour note, you had a great career there. Taking a look at some of your franchise ranks in Worcester Sharks history from 06 to 09, these don't include your 2 years in Cleveland prior to that, but top 5 in goal, or top 3 in goals, top 10 in points. Top 20 in all of those categories there. So obviously really enjoyed your time there. And I know that every time we travel there to play the Railers, you always have fond things to say about the city and good memories.
Yeah, definitely. I think when you rank that high in a franchise in the American League, that means you're there too long. But I was fortunate enough. Cunny was the guy to call me to let me know that I was going to San Jose for the couple of games too. So probably the best phone call that I ever got from him. But I had an awesome time there. I thought the city of Worcester was great. I thought we had awesome players on our team. And I think the best part was that Timmy Burke was the scouting guy, and he was a Boston guy. So we got all these guys from Harvard and Boston College and BU and Northeastern and all this. So being our whole team was always really young. We always had a couple of the older guys, but for the most part, probably 23, 24 and under. So all those college guys would always bring me back into Boston once in a while, show me the college life for a little bit, once or twice. So, I definitely learned a lot during my 3 years in Worcester, but during my whole time with the Sharks team as well.
Well, and also I want you to elaborate on something I just mentioned with David there about just the talented players that came up and that you got the chance to play with, not only in your 2-game NHL stint, but your long stint in Worcester and Cleveland. The talented players, the Sharks were relatively loaded in those years, including winning the President's Trophy one year. What are some of the memories of some of the best players you got a chance to play with in Worcester and San Jose? Yeah,
I honestly feel that first year I came in, that Cunny talked about there, it was the lockout. And when you looked at that team with Doug Murray, Marcel Gotch, Christian Ehrhoff, Patzold, Nolan Schaefer was in net, Ryan Clough, like Josh George's kind of a breakthrough player, found a niche. And it was just an unbelievable thing. Nick Bootlin, that's now coaching in Kalamazoo. He was, I called him my dad because he was so old. I was so young. He took care of me a lot. But it was all those guys. I learned so much that first year. I think when you're a young guy, you want to try and look up to some guys, but I felt we always had little close-knit teams as well. So it was an unbelievable time. Then when you go up to San Jose and I walk in the room and Rob Blake, Joe Thornton, Marlowe, Nabokov, like all these other guys are there. But then you look around and it's Joe Pavelski and Jamie McGinn and Devin Setaguchi, Derek Joslin, all these guys that played in Cleveland and Worcester. So it was a really good mixed bag of guys there, young and old. It was pretty cool to walk in there and actually they know who you are. So it wasn't like you're going in there and everyone's like, oh, who's this kid? So it was definitely a great experience.
Well, one more note on the AHL before we move into the tail of the tape and we talk about the here and now with the Mariners and the Railers. This rivalry that has been built between the Mariners and the Railers obviously stemmed back to the Worcester Sharks and the Portland Pirates. And obviously a lot of our Mariners fans, fan base were Portland Pirates diehards back in the day. I'm going to bring up footage from a couple of brawls between the two teams. But David, I mean, there's no better person to ask than you about the rivalry that began with Portland and Worcester. Tell me what comes to your mind when you think about that.
I think I think they're both blue collar towns, blue collar cities in Worcester and in Maine, and then Portland, I should say. It was the identity of the team though too. Both organizations had a couple guys on their teams that could mix it up and play a certain way. Like, Berkey would give us a hard time. Roy and I at times, giving us a hard time, saying like, "Oh, you want the toughest team in the league?" And it's like, hey, we didn't put this team together. This is the team that you guys built. We're coaching them up. If we don't this is our identity. If we don't play this way, then we're not playing to who we are. And Portland was always a team that would they had Recklich, and they always had a bunch of guys that could answer the bell. So it made things interesting. Jimmy Bono was there at times for Portland, and then he was there for playing with us in Worcester. So it was always interesting going up there. You had I think I don't know if Riley remembers this, but one year we'd go up there to play, and Ekman Larson, who was with them, he was playing in Portland, but they wouldn't dress him. Every game they'd healthy scratch him because they just didn't know how the game was going to go. So we looked at that as a win. I mean, that guy he was such a stud. So when you're not playing a guy, they're like, all right, we might as well keep playing that way.
Well, this footage is coming from the infamous school day game of 2011, March 22nd. 2011 at the Cross Insurance Arena. Then I guess it was the Cumberland County Civic Center. 92 combined penalty minutes in front of all the kids. And, we were talking about it last game when we were off the air about how it seems like the school day games always tend to be physical. And then the second one is from the following season, November 24th, 2012 in Worcester, 143 penalty minutes in this game. And our friend Kim McGuire, the voice of the Railers, had put together a thing on the 1 year or not the 1 year anniversary, but it would have been the 8 year anniversary last November of this brawl. And I know, Cunny, you gave some thoughts back then, but what do you remember specifically about this one?
I think, it started kind of with that clip we've shown. Johnny Mank, our captain of the team, was going down the wing and took a shot kind of. I don't think it was intentional, but they kind of shoved him. He was off balance and on his follow through, and he went heavy into the boards. We've talked about it a little bit already, but we had a tight knit group. I think Roy, one of his strengths as a head coach was getting the guys and doing team. We'd do team building events. We'd do different things to get the guys together. And like Riley said, we had a young group of guys every year. We didn't really have an older group, so there weren't a bunch of guys that were married with kids that were going home after practice. They're all hanging out. They'd go to lunch. They'd do things together. It was a fun group to coach, and it was a fun group to be with. That's why I was there for 12 years. It was a lot of fun to be around. We had guys that would always stick up for each other, and they did too. So that it always made it very interesting, entertaining.
Andrew Hart asking if we have the 11-12 season-ending brawl. So apparently this was not the last brawl of the 11-12 season. I was not able to find that one. I don't know if David, was there anything in particular that happened season-ending brawl, David, that Andrew's
I tell you, it's all a blur at this point.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say they run together.
They certainly do. That it's all a blur. Every time we got together, it was just like this.
Well, Riles,
guys like Riley. You've seen Tim Kennedy there. Like even really good hockey players that were just ultra competitive and were feisty. They weren't going to back down from anyone.
Riles,
I'm just glad I wasn't here during this season here. Good thing they got me out of town already.
I think you're over in Europe at this point.
Yeah, I think I might have been getting beat up here a couple of times looking at these guys throwing these punches. But a couple of guys that even played, Tim Conboy that was up in Portland for a bit in this game, Fraser McLaren there, number 10 for Worcester in these games too. So guys that I played with as well that stayed around the league and also in Worcester for a while. So it's pretty cool to see. And I don't know what the suspensions were going back here in 2012, but I'm thinking there could have been some more here coming.
I was going to pull up the box score, but it was too long for the page. It didn't fit on the screen. So all we could get was the first one. But anyways,
killing a lot of trees back then.
This clip actually goes on for a few more minutes, but I think we're going to cut this here so we can move on to our tail of the tape. But yes, lots of memories. Obviously, a brand of hockey that is kind of dying, and depend on who you talk to. It's either a good thing or a bad thing. But I know there's certainly a lot of people out there that miss that brand of hockey, and when we do see a glimmer of it come back, a lot of people are very thrilled about that. But moving into the tail of the tape now, a limited head-to-head, 9 games. I mean, if you look at the overall Mariners-Railers series, most of it was pre-David Cunniff here. So wanted to throw an asterisk on there. The 46 games hired mid-season. First game was the 27th of November. And then head-to-head, 6-2-1 for the Mariners against the Railers. The overall head-to-head, Mariners have fared very well going back to the 18-19 year, 17-6-1-1. But I do think that's a little bit misleading, Riles, as you and I had mentioned. And as a little teaser for our trivia, there have been a lot of overtimes, a lot of shootouts, a lot of close games. And really only one blowout last season is the only one that comes to my mind in a non-close game that has been played between these two teams in the first 2 seasons of this head-to-head.
Yeah, I think that's been like the coolest part. And I think that's the best part about the whole division is every night's like a playoff type game. Like you go in there and you can either climb the standings pretty quick or else you can be at the bottom looking up pretty quick too. And then you can hopefully turn that around with a really good weekend. But whenever we go down to Worcester or they come up here, it's going to be a 1-goal game, probably looking at overtime. So for the fans out there, if you're wanting to buy tickets, this is a game you get to watch some free hockey at the end too when you get overtime and shootouts going on. So I always enjoy going to Worcester. They have those little apple pies in the media room that I like to go in there.
Table talk.
Table talks, but sometimes they're always low on apple pies, and I got to give Mike Myers a little poke there to bring the apple pies in. But I honestly do feel that just being able to go down there and play against the Railers, it's always a great game. I think fans are excited when Maine comes down and when we're able to play there, or vice versa, and we get some good crowds too. So it's always fun to play in.
And sometimes when you're lucky, they have Chipotle in the media room as well, and you can make your own burrito. But I think we've only been there once on a Chipotle night, so we'll have to. Maybe you can put a word in.
Lottery.
David, in the small sample size of facing the Mariners here as head coach of the Railers, what are some of the main teams that come to mind when these teams go head-to-head for you?
It doesn't surprise me. I mean, I have a lot of respect for Riley, but like Riley said, the whole division, like, no, you're not sleeping on anyone, man. Like, it's a tough division, and there's no gimmies. Every single night, going into Maine, they're going to compete. They have a good team. They have depth, and they're just going to keep coming at you. So, you're in for a long night. And like you said, I mean, the playoff games, you can't make a ton of mistakes. If you make a ton of mistakes, the puck's going to end up in your net, and you start chasing games and you get in trouble with that. So, we have a lot of work to do in Worcester to try and even the score up a little bit. But, that's the challenge, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to try to compete with guys in this division, just because it's just so tough. It's a challenge. This league is not easy to coach in because you can't carry a lot of extra guys, and you're constantly, adding guys and subtracting. It's never going to be easy. It's never going to be. Never going to be like systematic, right? It's going to be ebbs and flows. One week you got D, the next week, you got no D and tons of forwards. It's just crazy. But I'm looking forward to the season starting, and I'm looking forward to competing against the division.
Well, before we get into our X's and O's, and actually before we put our trivia up, one more reminder for everybody watching. as we're about halfway through the show here. Please share the stream with your friends. Help us widen our audience. One lucky person who shares this stream on Facebook will win a prize. And we appreciate all the likes and the comments as well. Keep them coming. Before we get into the video breakdowns, here is your trivia question. And once again, for the second show in a row, this Gritty Chia Pet is our prize. It went unclaimed in the episode because nobody could name the one player that played for the Mariners and the Growlers. But we'll see if this one's a little easier. How many games between the Mariners and the Railers have gone to either overtime or a shootout? This would be in the 2-year history of the head-to-head. So we will let that marinate. And now we will get into the video breakdowns from Riley.
Just going off of these games with the Railers, something that we try and put into play during most games. But we talk about, everyone always talks about transition, playing fast. But the way to do that is also with moving the puck. That's what playing fast in my mind is how quick can you move the puck. It's on your stick, off your stick, and your feet have to be moving. So just in these clips right here, we're fortunate enough to score these goals, but you have Michael McNicholas on the middle lane drive over to Greg Chase, and then Nicky finishes at the post and doesn't do a flyby through the net. He actually stops there. Puck is able to come right back onto his tape there to be able to put in the net. But that's almost a textbook 3-on-2 with the middle lane drive. I think a lot of coaches at all levels try to do that. Again, right here, a middle lane drive, but when you see Alex Kyle come through, he's coming right through that inside shoulder of that defenseman, which is what you want. You want that D-man to respect that middle lane drive guy, and something that is, you talk about going to the hard areas, is actually stopping in front of the net. I think a lot of kids or players that are trying to find their way, they want to go to those areas, but they end up kind of disappearing and vanishing away from those areas. But when you go there, that's where a lot of good things happen. And again, I harp on our guys pretty hard about going to those areas and stopping. Ryan Culkin kicks it out to Nick here. Something that Cunniff worked on a lot with us was the kind of new generational thing of the POP, the pass off the pad. Cunniff knew I could really rip a puck, so he was like, "Hey, Riles, you don't have to do that. When you get in this area, I just want you to shoot score." So, but right here, Michael McNicholas opts for the pass off the pad, and again, we're coming in late. And whenever you shoot a puck and you have that middle lane drive, and you look at Worcester coming in on this, you can see how all their eyes, and it just not Worcester, it's a lot of teams. Your eyes get glued to the puck, and when you have that second wave coming in, you're able to pounce on those pucks. Ted Hart right here, main local hero, able to put that in. And then these are just some transition clips. Arid pass there, but you have Jake Elmer driving the net there, and that's what kind of creates this wave of players. Let me just back it up here. But when you watch Worcester back checking, they're always coming hard, but it opens up so much ice, and then guys tend to just kind of stand still because they have to do that sorting out phase a little bit. It doesn't turn into anything, but you can just see how it sucks everybody back. And that's where you're able to hit those second and third waves as you come into the zone as well. So it's always not the fun job when you're the middle lane drive, but it's the one that usually pays off the most. Again, Michael McNicholas, middle lane drive. And Nicky's not the biggest guy, but he's pretty fearless, so he gets in there pretty good. But another little demo of how it pulls guys back. Our D is just slow coming up here, but it would have been a great play. As you can see how much ice is open there inside the blue line. We're just working on a line change there a little bit. So, and then just right here, we have Ryan Farrell who picks the puck up. He's coming up through the dot lanes, which we talk about a lot on our team. And then when you watch where he finishes his route, he's going right to the net there as well. Goalie makes a big save here. But those are just some clips that we like to show our guys in their development process of where to go to score goals and how to create openings for other players on the ice.
All right. Thanks, Riles. And we'll turn it over to David.
Yeah, my clips are kind of the same thing. So I'm talking about the neutral zone entries. So what we're trying to do is attack through the middle of the ice. I don't know. Can you see my cursor at all, guys?
We can't. Nope. Just
No. Okay.
Play and pause.
So I call this an attack alley where we get the defense in the middle of the ice. So when we kick this puck out, like Riley was talking about, we have that middle drive. So the guys we call it wide ice outside the dot lanes. They have lots of time in wide ice because everyone's back checking to the middle. We have a center drive driving the defenseman back. So we're looking to shoot, and then we're looking to arrive on time. So our forward, who is the only main player that played for Maine and Worcester, Eddie Metz, we want him breaking his skating down around the hash marks. He's looking for a tip, load, redirect to the net, or is looking to arrive on time at the net by breaking his skating down at the hash marks. And then also we have that player in dot lane wide. Again, pass off the pad to the middle drive or the guy dot lane. Same type of thing. We attack the middle, we kick out. We have the two people driving the middle of the ice. So now we're able to cut behind and get the middle of the ice.
Makes a dangle.
I know that voice.
Here we are. Here we kick out early, but it's the same principles. We have a middle drive. He's backing the defenseman up, so we're able to make that pass dot to dot. Makes the goalie get all the way across to make a save on this, and then our D should be jumping into the play, following the play to make it a 4-on-3. There's not as many odd man rushes nowadays with the 4-on-3s. The odd man rushes are normally 4-on-3s. So same idea. You'll see the middle drive like this here. I just wanted to talk about, it's a 3-on-4. So Maine has 4 defenders back. Obviously, no surprises. Great sticks, taking away passing lanes. But because we're driving through the middle of the ice, we own the middle of the ice. If the middle drive was to slow down and the guys on the outside get going, then we'd have a triangle, but the main players would be inside owning the middle of the ice. As our center drives, now you look, they have 4, it's a 3 versus 4, but we have a 2-on-1 at the net. So that's what we're talking about. Both Riley and I talking about generating offense by passing off the pads. And then if it doesn't go in, now that starts your forecheck. And then I kept this going just because look at those wingers. Can't get anything to the net. Riley's guys are committed to blocking shots. Just no lanes to the net versus Maine. They make it difficult. This is just a little bit different. So in this, we have a 2-on-1. So I want to talk about shooting from the quadrant. So if you look at the top of the screen, that face-off circle, I like to break that circle into quarters. Okay, so if you draw, it's like a pie. You draw a line up the middle and then across there. So now you end up with 4 pieces of that pie. What we want to do on 2-on-1s is we want to take what the D gives us. So if the D's doing a good job taking away passing lanes, don't be afraid to get into those. I call them shooting quadrants. Get into those shooting quadrants. Hit the net, keep the puck in play, follow it to the net for second, third chances. Obviously, if the D's cheating on the puck, then you want to slide the puck over and generate offense off that. Again, offensive zone. Just talking about the Royal Road. Another thing we're trying to do, and it's tough to do because Maine does a great job. They collapse, they protect home plate. There's not a lot of opportunities for us to change sides. But if you draw a line, I wish I had a marker or whatever on this. I wish I could draw lines on it. But if you draw a line from the back of the net straight up the middle of the ice, we call that the Royal Road. And the highest percentages to up your scoring chances or up your scoring percentages, making a pass across the Royal Road. That'll get your scoring percentages up. That's the highest, easiest way to do it. But unfortunately, even on that, you guys are just too good. The goalie gets across on it. And then just want to talk about net front. We have to do a better job. This is why we're not winning hockey games in Worcester. We get a puck to the point, but we have people off to the side. There's an alley there that the goalie that has a lane to the net, so he's able to see these shots. We have to be more committed offensively to take those alleys away and take the goalie sight lines away. Again, if you look at where we are, if I just draw this back just another second, you'll see this winger come. You see the forward coming behind the net. He actually stops instead of taking the goalie's eyes away. letting the goalie see the release of the puck, and it's going to be just too easy for Maine's goalie. Compared to this now, where this is what we need. We need more commitment. As you see, our defenseman going to shoot the puck. Now our forward's taking that goalie's eyes away. Now he has a much tougher job, not seeing the release of the puck, not really sure where the puck goes. And that's the difference between scoring goals and not scoring goals. So we need a lot more commitment from our group in Worcester. We have to start changing the culture and do things right. We don't do things right enough. And I'm looking forward to having a training camp so we can instill these things in our guys so we can start winning some more hockey games.
Well, thank you so much as always for that, guys. I think that's a good insight, and I can't wait until we get to play one another again. I think that I'm sure there'll be plenty of head-to-head matchups on the schedule when the schedule does get released here.
There always is.
Our close proximity, and as Riley was mentioning earlier, I know the fans like to come up and make those road trips in either direction. So we're looking forward to that. I want to finish up with a couple of NHL topics, but before we do that, one more reminder, the trivia question. How many games between the Mariners and the Railers have gone to overtime in the shootout? If you get it right, this gritty Chia Pet is yours. Well, a couple of NHL topics to touch on, one more positive, one more negative. So let's start with the negative, and that is COVID, unfortunately, sweeping its way through a bunch of rosters. The good news is the NHL has battled through it. They have not had to shut down. Some teams have had to miss a week or two of games, which has caused some rescheduling problems. But one of the things, guys, I think that has to be considered here is the game of hockey itself and how conducive it is for germs to spread. And I think this was something that was talked about from the very beginning when COVID was a thing, about how these hockey locker rooms are kind of a bad place if you're trying to avoid the spread of germs. You see a team catches a bug and it kind of just spreads through the whole team. And the NHL has tried a bunch of different things, taking out the glass behind the bench, changing protocols, basically everything except, changing the actual on-ice play itself. But do you guys think, the big question here, is hockey more susceptible to COVID-19 than other sports, being around locker rooms as long as you have and knowing the environment? Do you think that plays into why hockey has had a little bit more trouble than other sports? Riles, we start with you.
Well, first of all, I think these NHL guys are finally, probably most of them haven't played in the ECHL, but now they're kind of getting the taste of it with maybe playing back-to-back nights or playing some more games than they're usually used to. And, but they're still on planes. And I think our guys would take flying over riding the bus. But I think that's where it comes into play, though. I don't know if it's more than other sports, but I do feel that our locker rooms might be smaller. I've never been in an NFL room, but judging by their roster size, it fits their teams. I also feel that all the hockey guys. Yeah, I don't know about other sports. Cunniff might be able to tell us more, but hockey teams are always so close. That's the best part about being on a hockey team is you form relationships. It's like they're like your brothers, that you build these friendships, and it's just not you hang out with them at the rink and then, you guys go your separate ways. There's guys always now playing video games or grabbing lunch or having dinners. And I think that's been the hardest part for a lot of these guys, is not that the team bonding stuff away from the rink with all the new protocols in place. So I think the NHL has done a great job so far in doing what they have to do to keep the games played, but also on the rescheduling side. And I think there's some teams, I saw a little report that they had to play 55 games in 104 days. So welcome to the ECHL, boys.
Well, and to add on to that, Riles, the ECHL, the 14 teams that are playing, they're doing pretty well also. I mean, we have had games here or there postponed, but knock on wood, there hasn't been a huge issue in the ECHL either. But David, anything to add to this conversation?
Not really. I mean, I think that everyone's, the safety of the players, the safety of the officials is obviously the most important thing. And I think that everyone's doing everything they absolutely can. And even to a point where it's almost like some of it's overkill, but they have to try. Like, they have to do everything they possibly can. They owe it to the players. They owe it to the officials. They owe it to the fans to do what they can to keep everybody safe. But I mean, it's a team sport. You know, if you compare hockey to tennis, then yeah, of course it will be a little bit more. You know, hockey is going to be a little bit more susceptible to it, but you know, because of the interaction, the physicalness. But that's what's great about hockey, though. Also, so it's yeah, it is what it is. You know, I think everyone's doing the best they can. You know, hopefully we can continue to keep going in the right direction. They could keep playing games so we could enjoy the games and hopefully get going ourselves at some point.
On a more positive note, a fantastic weekend in Lake Tahoe for the Avalanche, Golden Knights, Bruins, and Flyers. Not fantastic on the ice for all those teams, but a great event and just a spectacular scenic spot. And it makes everyone wonder, and the question has been bounced around the hockey world, is that type of setting the future of outdoor pro hockey games? You know, we've seen football stadiums, baseball stadiums. I think it's awesome to play a game inside Michigan Stadium where you can have, you know, record attendance numbers. But when you saw those images from Lake Tahoe with the mountains and the lake in the background, it's hard to argue against doing that in some of the other more scenic places around the country and the world. What do you think, Riles?
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought they were playing in Saskatchewan. I was like, "Oh, what lake are they on?"
God's country.
But you know what? Out of all the games, I thought you can see the Colorado's jersey. I thought it was like unbelievable. But I think the biggest thing is that the fans love going to those. I remember my brother played in the first ever outdoor game in Buffalo, and it was so much hype. I think maybe the hype has settled on them because there's been so many of them. But I still think the fans build up and amp up for that. And I don't know, but when I'm seeing the highlights of Gritty out there, and Gritty's on the snowboard going down a hill out there, and then he's running around the stadium, he's up in the chopper, like getting a bird's eye view. You know, I think he was the MVP of the whole weekend, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I thought it was just awesome. I was talking to my son. I was like, "Geez, what do you think of that?" He's like, "That's the best thing the NHL's done ever." Like it was just amazing. It's so beautiful. You know, how could you not enjoy it? I think it's just great to mix it up too, right? Like, I think it's great to do the stadiums, get the fans involved, and then to be up in Tahoe. I mean, it would be awesome to have fans there also, but the scenery and the views, it was beautiful.
They had a couple of fans out in the lake there on their canoes.
Yeah, yes, they did. And, you know, they obviously had some issues with sun glare during the first game, and we had the longest intermission of all time, 8 hours between the first and second period of the Vegas-Colorado game. And I was thinking to myself, could I fill 8 hours of air on a broadcast if I had to stay on that whole time? And I think it would be a really good challenge of my broadcasting skills. But I think Tirico and Eddie Olczyk probably went and took a nap, as did most of the players, and came back at night. But even at night, it looked great. The lighting was fantastic. And then obviously that second game between Boston and Philly kind of happened during dusk, and you know, just beautiful colors and everything. Riley, I think you were alluding to it there, but if you had to choose a place for somewhere in the world, U.S., Canada, to host an outdoor game, what would be your number one pick?
You know, I think the mountains are always so cool up there, but you know, the one place that I'd want to see it would be Mosaic Stadium, home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders of the CFL. Got a brand new stadium up there, and I just don't know if the NHL players would be able to handle playing in those temps that Saskatchewan brings. I think they should test it in the ECHL first, kind of see where it's at, and then kind of go on from there, just like we do with all the other rules. We always get tested here, and then they gradually make the jump up there.
Good idea from Andrew Hart here. We'll have to see if we can to make that happen. Cunny, what do you think about what would be your dream location for an outdoor game?
Yeah, mine would be Fenway. How can I not? You know, Fenway Park. Being from Boston, I've been fortunate to get there and watch a college game and to skate on the ice at Fenway Park. And it was really cool. The history and to be out there on the ice, just looking around was amazing. It was a great night.
Well, the last thing, some unfortunate news in our division in particular. In fact, it will kind of do some damage to our next episode of X's and O's, as we will unfortunately not be able to have the Brampton Beast on, as they announced they were ceasing operations. And guys, obviously unfortunate to lose a member of our North Division here. A tough location there in Brampton in the Greater Toronto area, with so many other options for hockey. But we certainly wish the best to their players and staff. Just Riles, your thoughts on Brampton?
Yeah, just like you touched on it, it sucks when guys lose jobs and team or players don't have jobs either. I love the league. I really like where the league's going in the last 8-10 years with adding teams. They're adding 3 more this year coming up too. So you always want to see that number keep growing for every NHL team to have an ECHL team that they can use. So hopefully, it's, I don't really know all the details behind it, but hopefully it's something that they can turn around and maybe we see them back in a couple of years or so.
And Cunniff, any thoughts?
Yeah, same thing. Just the jobs lost, right? It's tough for the community to lose the team, but the trainers, the front office people, the players, less jobs in hockey is never good. But like Riley said, hopefully the expansion will absorb some of that, so it's not so hard on people.
And as we've talked about before, a new team in Trois Rivières. I don't believe it's been officially confirmed if they're going to be in the North Division, but I think that's probably a safe bet. So we'll be able to continue to have the 6-team North Division moving forward. Before we jump off here for the night, Riles, want to give you a chance to give another update on the Armstrong Skills Competition coming up in about 2.5 weeks here. How are things coming along? How many spots are still available? And what's new in the last couple weeks since we talked?
Yeah, it's been buzzing up here. We're gaining more traction. Spots are filling up quick. We got the fastest skater, puck relay, and the hardest shot. The winner of the fastest skater will get some true hockey skates. For the puck relay, they'll get some new true hockey gloves, and the hardest shot. If I sign up, I already got that sucker locked up, so I might as well just take the true hockey stick home. Really looking forward to it. I think it's gonna be awesome for people of all ages, all skill levels to get out. We're signing up our 5-year-old Ezra to get out there. He likes to buzz on that fastest lap, so we'll see what he's got. But from what Andrew Hart was saying there, I kind of want to call out Mike Myers with that new baseball stadium. I think you guys are building down there. What about getting an outdoor game going there? So, hey, Mizey, if you're listening to this,
they're working. They're finishing it up.
Yeah, I think why not? Why not get an outdoor game?
That's a no-brainer.
No-brainer, Mizey. Let's go get it on the book.
Now, will he accept the challenge? The challenge has been thrown out. Riles, one more thing. I did hear a rumor that you could, if you fare
Riley,
well
what
enough.
about
Go ahead, Connie. Did we lose him?
Oh, Connie, what was that?
the skills competition? No figure skating. I don't know if people know what a great figure skater Riley is. We used to, before and after practice, have Riley out there, and he would be demonstrating his triple sow cows and some stuff for the boys.
Yeah, hey, I still got it. I did one just the other day. My hip. So
Donna there seconding the call out of Mike there. So. But Riles, I was just saying, I heard a rumor that if you fare well enough in the competition, you could even have a chance to make the Mariners. Tell us about that.
Yeah, a little something going out here to all the men's league guys. If you place first or second in all three events, you'll be extended a camp tryout to the Maine Mariners. So, it's just it's kind of a little a little pump up for those guys that are in the men's league. So I know a lot of those men's league guys. Whenever they go out and play, they always say they could play in the NHL. They have a harder shot than Chara. They're better than Brad Marchand. So, I think now is your time to come out on here at the rink at Thompson's Point. Outdoor rink, just like Lake Tahoe, just no mountains, but on the water. and show us what you got.
Wanted to give a shout out as well to our equipment manager, Jake Rogers, doing a great job with Pro Shop Saturdays, raising a lot of money for local restaurants, offering his services for the next 3 Saturdays as well from 10 to 2 at the Cross Insurance Arena. If you want to get your skates sharpened or any hockey equipment repairs, you can also bid on or buy raffle tickets for some awesome prizes he's got in there. I know he's got some hockey tape for sale also. And if you aren't local, you can also donate to his GoFundMe page. You get all the information over on our social media. So big shout out to Jake. I know Riley can personally vouch for his skate sharpening abilities. So
Sometimes
he's doing a great job. We had a couple of very close guesses to our trivia question, but nobody did. We had an 8 and a 14 and 11. The answer is 9. 9 total overtime and shootout games between the Mariners and the Railers through the first 2 seasons. 5 overtimes and 4 shootouts. So the Grady Chia pet stays with me for another 2 weeks. We'll try to give it away again on our next show, which will be Tuesday, March 9th. Guest to be determined. We will come up with that and reveal it on social media in the next couple weeks. But guys, hey, this was a lot of fun. It was nice to reinvigorate the rivalry as it's taking a year off here. But I know it's going to come back bigger and better next year.
I'm looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. I have a suggestion for next week. Why don't you get Mizey on there and talk about that outdoor game?
I like that. That's a good segue. Yeah,
we may have to do that. We'll just spend a full hour on planning. Yeah, I like it. We'll get him on and we'll get Danny on. We'll talk it out and we'll figure it out. Get input from the fans. So,
awesome.
Let's make it happen. All right. Well,
Thanks,
David,
guys.
thank you for joining us. Appreciate all the X's and O's as well, as always, guys. And to everybody that commented, interacted, and shared, thank you so much as well. Hang in there, and we will talk to you again in a couple weeks. Have a good night, everyone.